Is the iPhone 15 Pro really that much better than the 14 Pro? Well, over the past few weeks, it seems like my life has been consumed by using and testing these new phones, and we have found a lot of real-world differences that others didn't talk about, both good and bad. So let's get right in and answer if you should get an iPhone 15 Pro. I want to start out with USB Type-C because I didn't think that it was as big of a deal in the real world like most people made it out to be, especially since I mostly use MagSafe for charging. But there were a few times when I forgot to charge overnight and I started looking for a lightning cable, and once I remembered it was so nice to just use a USB Type-C cable, which I have everywhere from my other devices, just plug it in and charge up. With that, Apple didn't lock down the USB Type-C port like many people thought, so you could just connect it to a display and it works great, and connect it to a ton of USB Type-C accessories, even hubs, and everything just works. So that is a nice upgrade. Now, as far as the charging speed, it has not gotten any faster. Still takes about an hour 45 minutes for a full charge, and if you're using MagSafe, up to 4 hours, which is insanely slow. Now, based on the battery health issues that we reported on with the 14 Pros and the overheating issues on the Titanium 15s, which we'll talk about in just a bit, it does make sense why Apple didn't want to make it any faster. Now, onto battery life, Apple quoted the same 23 hours of video playback and 75 hours of audio playback, but who in the real world shuts everything off, including cellular, and just does that? Now, in the real world, if you guys use really power-hungry applications, the battery life is still about the same. But if you do more simple tasks, the 15 Pro actually gets up to 2 hours of better battery life, which is really nice. Now, this is of course because of the new 3nm design, but with the efficiency cores that are a lot more powerful, that is what makes the difference. Now, for me personally, I was thinking about possibly switching full-time to the smaller 15 Pro, but after these tests, I will not be able to do so. Now, as far as the design and the comfort, I do like the new titanium design, but with the dark colored models, they really show off fingerprints and smudges a lot more than I expected, and the coatings can actually scratch off quite easily, revealing the natural titanium, which might be why the new Ultra 2 still only comes in natural titanium. Now, titanium also brings the weight down by about 19 grams, but to be honest with you guys, the weight difference in the hand is not that noticeable with the smaller 15 Pros like it is with the larger and heavier Pro Maxes. The 15 Pro is more comfortable with the rounded edges, and I love how it feels in my hand, but most people use a case, especially now that we've seen how much easier it is for the screens and the back glass to break due to the glass being curved into the edges instead of being protected by the edges like on the 14 Pros. So to protect your new iPhone, check out our partner Moff's new Movos vegan leather lineup, which has an amazing texture while being very durable, making their new MagSafe case a perfect choice, especially since Apple stopped making leather cases. Their lineup is fully modular, so you can add on their slim battery pack, which uniquely has its USB-C port on the side, and then pair it with their Snap-on wallet, allowing you to use your phone in any orientation while charging, which is also perfect for standby mode. You can also use both on the go, or if you don't need the extra power that day, you can leave it at home and just take the 3-card wallet stand, which I have been using and recommending for years. They also have this amazing invisible tripod stand which instantly unfolds and can be used in many configurations like browsing, macro photography, video call, theater mode, and more, while folding down just as quickly. The prices are great too for all of these modular accessories, so check out our partner Moff's Movos products using the links below. Now, almost every iPhone launch, Apple has been improving speaker quality and loudness without mentioning it at the event, and we saw a really big improvement with the 15 Pro Max and the 15 Plus, both having the same amazing speakers this year. Unfortunately though, the 15 Pro was not blessed this year, and the speakers are identical from the 14 Pro, so go ahead and take a listen to the difference. Now this isn't a huge deal, but it still sucks when the larger ones had such a big upgrade. And the same thing with the displays. They are identical this year, no difference in brightness or quality whatsoever. Now on the inside, we do have an upgrade with the new A17 Pro chip. Now it has a few new features. We have ray tracing for upcoming games in the future and metal effects upscaling, but overall in peak performance, the difference is one of the smallest that we've had in years. But the efficiency cores, on the other hand, can handle more tasks now, so you don't need to put the performance cores to use as often. Now, thankfully, we do have another real-world difference that Apple didn't talk about, and that is with the new X70 5G modem from Qualcomm. We get better real-world speeds and reception, both indoors as well as outdoors. So if you struggle in some areas or slower speeds, well, the 15 Pro will give you better results. Now, the biggest buzz around the 15 Pros is overheating. And yes, I have felt that the 15 Pro runs hotter when you're using it, and especially when it is charging. Now, Apple blamed third-party software, which definitely has a part in it, and they just released an iOS update to help with this, but that is not the only issue. The new A17 Pro now can use up to 14 watts of power, which is about 40% more than the A16 and the 14 Pro, so that puts out a lot more heat. And with that, titanium is way worse at transferring heat than stainless steel. There's a lot of articles about this and how titanium can cause excessive heat buildup. And companies actually use titanium when they want to insulate heat or stop it from spreading, and some regular people have even placed a single washer to stop heat transfer. So even though titanium is nice and it is very strong, it is definitely not an upgrade in every way. And with that said, after we tested the software update from Apple, it has definitely made a difference in how hot the phone gets when you're using it. Now, I'm not sure if more tasks are being done now with the efficiency cores or there's something else going on, but it is definitely helping, and screen dimming has also been reduced, which is nice. Now, a lot of people upgrade their phones because they want better photos. So getting into cameras, unfortunately, all of the sensors in these phones are identical. We have the same 12 megapixel selfie camera, the same ultra wide, the same 48 megapixel, and the same 3x telephoto camera from the 14 Pro Max. And that 3x camera, well, it's been around now for the third year. So I was not really expecting the differences that we got. Looking at these photos and starting with the old 3x camera, here it is so hard to see any differences. Switching to this low light shot, they look so similar, and then cropping in, I see a little bit less noise on the 15, but at the same time, maybe a little bit less detail, and both of them have artifacting issues. We still have that same 15x maximum zoom, and looking at these shots right here, I was surprised that the 14 Pro's 3x camera actually looked slightly better than the 15 Pro's. And then looking at this portrait shot, they look very similar. We have slight differences in color, and I would say I'm not seeing any detail difference, and I actually slightly prefer the warmer look under our studio lighting of the 14 Pro. So honestly, I was really disappointed because the 15 Pro Max has a brand new zoom camera, and as you'll see, all the other cameras actually got some updates. So I don't know if Apple just gave up on trying to make it better with software, or they already maximized the quality they can get from this 3-year-old lens and camera combination. Now, getting into the other cameras, in this portrait shot, we have a little bit of difference in saturation and colors and maybe slightly better blur. You can definitely see the same thing in this shot. We definitely have more saturation, and looking closer, we have a dramatic difference in detail. The 15 main camera looks a lot better, even though the hardware is the same. And that is because Apple included 24 megapixel photos now instead of 12. So the quality goes up and it's doing quite nice. Looking at this shot right here, also fairly similar, but we have some improvements, and looking closer, we definitely have better detail and a more natural look. In this portrait shot, it's harder to see the difference, but then getting a little closer, you definitely see much higher quality and detail with less artifacting as well. Looking at the selfie shot, one interesting thing is that the 15's front camera is actually wider than the 14's, and then getting close, we see a lot more extra detail in the shot, even though they're both 12 megapixel with the same hardware. So I don't know if it's just software differences, better processing for warping where it doesn't have to crop in as much, but it looks nice. And in this shot, we see a massive difference. We have so much flaring on the 14 Pro, which we had issues with the 13 and 12 Pros as well, and that is greatly reduced, pretty much gone. And then if you look at the sunset, the HDR is so much better in this shot. The same thing here, where the sky looks much more natural and you see the colors popping through with a bit more contrast. And in this shot right here, you can really tell with that sunset, especially if I crop in, where the sunset looks way more like what your eyes see. And at the same time, we also have improvements in detail and noise. And the sucky thing is that the hardware is the same. This is just due to Smart HDR5 and the 24 megapixel. And the regular iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, they use the same A16 Bionic that is in the iPhone 14 Pro, meaning the image signal processor is the same, and they could be getting this result if Apple would allow it in software, but they're not allowing Smart HDR5 or 24 megapixel mode for the older phones just because they don't want to, and that sucks. And looking into night mode here, we have a selfie shot. You guys could see how much more crisp the 15s is, and then looking closer, we have a lot less noise as well. And then looking at detail and the faces, much more detail. It just looks really good, and it seems like this new processing is able to just freeze action a little bit better and quicker, and maybe stack more photos, and that is really sweet to see. And here's an ultra wide shot, and the 15's ultra wide looks so much better in every way. And once again, the actual hardware is the same. Here is a 1x photo. You guys see how much more detail we have there in all of the brush and in the sky and the stars. And then in this nighttime portrait, it is clear, even without zooming in, how much better the 15's looks. And punching in, we have way less noise, more detail, the colors look better, it's a dramatic improvement. And then in this nighttime handheld star shot, wow, we're getting way more stars with Smart HDR5 and the improved processing, and that looks incredible. Now, I don't know what an iPhone 15 or 15 Plus's photo would look like in this scenario, and how much of this is A17, but it's clear that a lot of these differences could have came to the 14 Pro with software updates, but they're not. Now, Apple also added ProRes log recording and external USB-C SSDs or cards to be able to record to that, so that is really nice. And with all of that said, if you really care about getting the best photos possible, the 15 Pro might be worth it for you, at least with the other lenses, not the 3X. But then again, the 15 Pro Max is definitely better with its new 5X lens that is so much nicer than the 3X. If you guys want to see a full comparison with that included, we did an awesome one that is so fun to watch. So go ahead and check that one out. And to be honest with you guys, even though there are some improvements with the 15 Pro, I think that this is one of the worst updates that Apple has made year over year. And comparing it to the rest of the iPhone 15 lineup, it definitely is the worst one in my opinion. All the other phones had a much bigger upgrade and difference. So unless you really need some of these features, I would say if you can score a great deal on a 14 Pro, if you want to choose between both of these, I would go for that. Or if you're just waiting to upgrade and you can wait another year for the 16 Pro to come out, I think that is when we're going to see some major differences in the regular size Pro iPhone. So you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Go ahead and check out Moft as well in the description. Click that circle above and check out one of those great camera comparisons right over there, this Max, and I'll see you in the next one.